How are you doing, green industry business leaders? This is episode number 13 of the Green Industry Profits Podcast, where we talk about how green industry companies can grow in a profitable way. In today's episode, we had a conversation with Thane Isaacs of Peak Peer Groups and Innovations Tomorrow. We dive into the start of his career at ValleyCrest, giving autonomy to employees, getting past tough business situations that test us, employee training, methodology, and much more. And before we dive into this episode, just a quick note that this podcast is brought to you by Cycle CPA, a remote accounting firm that works specifically with green industry businesses. For more information, go to cyclecpa.com. And without further ado, let's get into today's episode. All right, everyone. Very excited for this episode here. Thane Isaacs joins us from Vermont, and it looks beautiful. We were discussing right before the call here. It's kind of those things, being able to just enjoy some of that time, outside, kind of seeing the trees change color as well. So, we really appreciate you, stepping in here, Thane, and also appreciate everything you do for the industry. And for those that don't already follow Thane on LinkedIn, definitely recommend to do so. He goes live every Friday morning, right, Thane?
Every Friday morning at 8 a.m. Yes, sir.
Awesome. Yeah. And that's Coffee on the Peak. And
Yep.
also Thane also runs the Peak Peer Groups, and the also helps with some of the consulting as well with Innovations Tomorrow. But I'm really looking forward to this episode, Thane, because I know, we had spoken briefly in the past, and or I would say last year, in regard to that Facebook Live, and we got a lot of positive feedback based off that. So,
Love it.
um, but I guess, Thane, for those that don't know you, do you mind sharing your background and how you got into the industry?
Yeah. So, as a young person, I started working at the age of 15, working at nurseries and garden centers. And then I got a job with the Youth Conservation Corps building parks. And it wasn't, at 15, just mowing people's lawns. I was learning plant names. I was learning how plants lived at the nursery, but also learning how to build and engineer things like retaining walls with the YCC at a very early age. As a matter of fact, I was the youngest person on the crews, and it was just a great learning experience. And I tried a few things indoors, but I realized I don't want to be stuck indoors all the time. I don't want to be stuck behind a desk. Funny, eventually we all get stuck behind a desk if we're successful. But so I just worked my way through working for mom and pops, and then started to have a family and realized mom and pops weren't going to do it. And so I went and worked for a professional company, went through several transitions, ended up ValleyCrest was coming into Memphis, and I decided, hey, I want to try to work with this company. And I became the branch manager of a startup company. And I knew it was onto something special because we were the first maintenance branch in the history of ValleyCrest companies to make money in its first year. I had a visit from Bert Sperber at the end of that year. He handed me a $7,500 check for making $2,400. And I was like, what in the world is this? And he shook my hand and said, they can't tell me it can't be done now. And I said, what are you talking about? And my manager, Brian Storm, said, no one's ever done this before. No one's ever made money in their first. I had no idea. I was new to the company. I was on an island. I was so isolated. I had no idea about the culture. But it also showed me the beauty of autonomy. I had nobody breathing down my neck and looking over my shoulder and asking me why I was doing this, why I was doing that. I was able to run it. If you want to look at IBM and Lexmark Corporation, there's some similarities to that, where under IBM, Lexmark could never do anything, but when they got autonomy, they started killing it. There's a lot to that, and I realized that. After about 5 years, moved to Vermont. I'm not going to get into all that. It was a big thing where I wanted more opportunity. ValleyCrest wanted to kind of keep me in that operation, and I'm like, no, I can't do this. So we moved to Vermont. That's where I wanted to retire, and I actually got here, a lot earlier than that, and have loved it. And COVID came along. I was traveling. I'd started my own consulting business, and I couldn't travel anymore, so that was tough. And decided to take up the mantle of Zoom and start coaching people that way. And then started Coffee on the Peak podcast, and actually started doing some retreats at our beach house on Ocean Isle Beach, which have been some of the most effective things we've done with peak peer groups, and have transformed a lot of people's lives, including mine. And the guy who does them with me, Scott Lesack, we both have our lives have transformed through it. So I have found what I love to do, what I will get up to do, and when I'm not even getting paid to do, because during COVID, I was getting up and not getting paid to do it. People didn't have money, and I still had to stay fresh. I had to still stay on top of it. I worked with people all over the world at that time, Joseph. I mean, all over the world. There was a person in Norway, person in Germany, a person in Afghanistan, and a person in Pakistan, all four. And for the people in Pakistan, I had to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to do it. And I was up excited because I was helping somebody. And that's when I knew it's like, this is what I was born to do. This is what I was put on this earth to do, because I am not getting paid to do it. And I'm still excited to get out of bed to do it. And that was when I knew that it's like, no matter what happened, no matter what came my way, I had to keep doing this. And there was a time during COVID where I was actually taking my truck and picking up people's garbage in between sessions so I could pay the bills and come back, take a shower, get in front of somebody for an hour, get back in the truck and go pick up garbage again for 2 or 3 hours. Whatever I had to do, because this is what I was going to do. And sometimes I believe God is testing us, not to see if we want to do what we really want to do, but if we're made of the stuff, to make us know that this is what we want to do in life. And I did. My wife questioned it several times, and I said, I can't see me doing anything else ever again in my life. And I said, I know it's tough right now, but I have faith that we're going to get through it. We're going to make it. And I'm happier than I've ever been, because two of my biggest values are spending time with my family and helping other people. And before, I was on the road 5 days a week, helping other people, with my family 2 days a week. Now every day of the week, I get to help people and be with my family, other than the times I choose to travel, not having to travel, but choosing to travel. So that's basically my story right now, and why I feel like I am one of the wealthiest people in the world. I don't have the most money in my bank account. As a matter of fact, I used to make more money on the road than I make now, but I was miserable. My wife says I'm happier than ever. I do things that I desire to do. If I want to go see a baseball game with somebody, I'll go see a baseball game with somebody out of town. If I want to go play golf, I'll go put in 9 holes in the afternoon. I couldn't do that before. And again, wealth is the life. I believe wealth is the life we live, not the money in our bank account. Because I had more money in my bank account, but I was living a horrible life, and that's not wealth to me, in my world. So
Yeah,
that's me in a nutshell, brother.
awesome stuff. No, that's a great outlook. And I I want to go back to your experience at ValleyCrest, and based on what you had mentioned, autonomy, right? And I
Yeah.
think that's what you feel kind of enabled you to reach success within that company, whereas others maybe couldn't. How would you recommend for business owners to do that with their team? Kind of give them that autonomy.
Well, that's exactly what I had to do as well. And my belief is the more I can get people to do, the more I can do. If I'm having to uh, remanage them, if I'm having to micromanage them, I have to watching over them, there's so many things I can't get to. And I think one of the things that we don't do well enough is set clear expectations, and not just verbally, but a plan of what expectations are, what we expect in your first 30 days, your next 60 days, your next 90 days, and so on. And to do follow up with them on a regular basis, not to just let them go. I mean, I've worked with businesses that I've seen where they tell people what to do, but nobody checks in for 3 months. Nobody has it written out, so we can't really do a scorecard on it. And I believe scorecards are very important for people so that they can see where they're tracking. It's no different than a team. I mean, even these days they have headsets in baseball games so you can keep up with the pitch count. It's very important to know these things, and people need to know where they are, to know what progress they've made, to know what they need to do to get to where they're trying to get to. It's a roadmap. So I believe giving those people those roadmaps, but also trusting them, and being very clear that I do not want to have to stand over you. I want to see you grow. And I actually tell people this. I would tell them, take my job, please. Take my job, please. If you can do that and work that hard, I'll have another place to go, believe me. So that was that. And I wanted people to do that. That's where, the whole idea of leaders building leaders comes in, is you can't be promoted unless you've trained somebody to take your role. And I believe,
Yeah.
it's the same thing with we have this thing every year where we do reviews, and everybody, it's so tedious. But I believe that personnel reviews, that we do once a year for increases should never be based on our personal growth. It should be based on who we're developing. And here's why. When I promote somebody, if they don't know how to train other people, I have a disaster. I don't care if you know how to do it. What I want to know is, do you know how to teach other people how to do it? If you know how to teach other people how to do things, you're going to be so much more valuable to me than if you don't as a manager, because that is your role, is to help develop those under you. That's where leaders building leaders comes from. So if we're having an account manager, again, I didn't bring account managers from outside. You had to grow through that. You had to you had to be a crew leader. Even my college recruits knew, and I had several of them, many from Auburn, Mississippi State, and other colleges, but they knew you're going to spend at least 1 year on a crew. If you don't know, and I would tell them, if you don't know how to do it, you can't tell somebody else how they're doing it wrong or how they need to do it. So you need to work on a crew. Plus, you'll be gaining the respect of the people. And it was just, to me, that's a system and process right there. Very simple. Is what are you doing to develop your people so that when you put them in place, they're set up for success? If you've never run a mowing crew, you can't tell a group of people that, hey, that's not the way you do it. They're going to laugh at you. But if you've done it, if you've been on the front line with them and you know how to do it, they've seen that you are doing it, they're going to have a lot more respect for you when you have those conversations. So that's just how I believe the way for autonomy is if you know how to do things, I have a lot more faith in you to not be watching over you, to let you run that how you want to run it. And it kind of goes to the Jack Spring open book management process. Is I want you to run this like it's your business. These 7 crews that are yours, these 5 crews that are yours, whatever it is, I'm going to give you all the information you need. I'm going to hopefully give you the right resources. It's going to be up to you to pick the right people. If you have those 3 things, and you can't do the job, something's really wrong. Because those are the main things you need. You need the correct information, the right resources, and the right people. And if you have those things and you're taking action, you're going to get the jobs done. So that's kind of how we built, how I built that. And I've tried to help other people build that. It's a lot harder, I can tell you right now, to go in and to a business and get them to change things. It's a lot easier to build it from the ground up. And that was so great with some of my experience with other companies, is I have done it from the ground up like that. At ValleyCrest, there was basically, here's 2 trucks and some equipment. They had a few guys already hired for me, which only one of them stayed for very long after I came on board. You just had to bring in all the people to do the job right. It had nothing to do with me. It had everything to do with the people on my team.
No, those are great points, Thane, and I hope that people are taking notes or really absorb what you mentioned, because I shared that same philosophy. If someone wants to go to that next step within the company, there needs to be someone that can take their role, and that person needs to be able to train that person. Because then what happens is, if you start to promote people within your company that don't have that mindset of being able to coach others and train others, then the business owner is going to be doing all of that, right? Which is, I
Right.
think,
Yeah.
what leads to a lot of companies kind of, and owners maybe reaching burnout or having a team, maybe, being able to scale based on what they can do, right? And what they can coach and how they can manage, but then it kind of maybe lacking that middle management or other management within the company that can really kind of take that on as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, the more that everyone around us can do, the more we can do. And it's just a fact. If I'm having to, I mean, again, this is a true story, and I'm not going to get into particular names, but I was been working with a guy over a snowstorm, and I was driving back to Vermont, and he and I were getting ready to start working together with me coaching him, and he called me about a situation, and I said, yeah, well, here's some guys I think that can help you. And he said, hey, would you call them for me? And I said, sure. And this is how I do things, Joe. This is exactly how I said, sure. If you are not confident enough and don't feel good enough about yourself to call them yourself, I said, oh no, don't you dare call them. Don't you dare call them. I'll call, oh my God. He saw what I did. And I would do that to my team as well, because again, I wanted them to know, it's like, oh, you need me to go to this meeting for you or with you. Why don't you just stay home instead? I'll take care of it. You don't have to worry about it. Oh no, don't you dare. So again, not wanting to not help people, but also knowing that you're capable of doing this. You just got to put yourself out there and be willing to do it. And not doing it in a mean way, doing it with a little bit of levity, to make them know it's like, look, I'm not going to take this that seriously, because in the end, you're going to have to do this. I'm not going to be there to always hold your hand. Now, this is somebody I would just throw into the fire, obviously. One of my big beliefs is with getting people ready is so many owners, so many managers just throw people to the fire. And one of my big beliefs is the first week or two, you need to have people shadowing you and shadowing the other people in the company to see how they work, to see what we're actually expecting. So we're not just throwing them out there and they can figure it out on their own. I believe as people get promoted, that's something that's very important. An account manager doesn't just get thrown to the wolves. He shadows another account manager for a week, shadows another account manager for a week, might shadow a business developer for the day, and shadow me for a day or two, and see what all's involved and what we're dealing with. And people are like, oh, I can't afford to do that. You can't afford not to do it. Your rate of turnover is too high out there, I can promise you. And if you're taking people, giving them those expectations that are set by modeled behavior, not by words that can be misconstrued. I mean, we say a picture's worth 1,000 words. People see what you do, and if you try to tell them what to do, it's going to be so much better. And I can just promise you that's a huge, huge investment. The timelines may be a bit skewed. You may not, depending on the size of your company, you may not need to spend 2 weeks doing shadowing. But I would say you need to think about spending some time where people are shadowing you as you're setting their expectations and building their scorecard for them. So you can say, this is what we're talking about when we say customer follow-up. This is what we're talking about when we say sense of urgency. This is what we're talking about when we say, don't let it slip through the cracks. This is, because again, that may mean different things to different people, but when we're actually showing them this is what we're talking about, the customer call, they have a big situation. We don't always drop what we're doing, but in this situation, we need to drop what we're doing. That's the sense of urgency we're talking about. Any of that kind of stuff, people need to understand that. Whereas I've seen where it's like, well, yeah, I'll get back to them in a couple of days. Did you see what that message said? You can't get back to them in a couple of days. You need to get back to them before the end of business today, please. So again, it's just, we take for granted what we think people know and understand like us, and we need to help them see that better. I think that's our job as leaders.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think sometimes the reason your team is not doing something is maybe because you didn't train them or kind of show them what the expectation is. So I think it's that over communicating, especially when it's not the first person that you hire. That person you're probably trying to really focus and show them what to do. It's that 50th person, because in your mind you already did it 50 times. Oh, they should already know, right? But it's kind of getting into that different mindset, building a process around it, maybe so you don't miss things like you had mentioned, Thane. If they're going to shadow people, maybe what should they shadow them based on, stuff like that. So I think that's all great stuff. And
Yeah.
you had also touched on, Thane, in regard to during COVID you were tested, right? And I think all business owners, whether you don't see it on their social media platforms and it looks like all good stuff going on, or I think that the reality is that every business owner goes through difficult times, right? And they need to find a way to be resilient and get through it, and try to find a way to succeed, right? And I guess, what do you
Yeah.
feel helps people get past things like that? And I guess what kind of separates people that do from those that maybe aren't able to kind of get past it?
I don't know what separates us, but I can tell you this. We forget so much of when we were kids. When you were a kid and you were learning to walk, you fell down. You fell down hundreds of times, you still got back up. When you were learning to ride a bike with all your friends, you not just fell down, you skinned your knee, you skinned your elbow, you had blood running down your leg, and you still got back up to try to catch up with your friends because you didn't want to get left behind. But as we got older, we got more embarrassed by these things. Our egos get in the way. um, I can tell you this: as far as difficult times and difficult days, I don't believe we have bad days. I believe we have tough days, and we should be tougher or we wouldn't be here where we are today. Okay. But I can tell you this: I've never high-fived my team at the end of a good day. I've never celebrated like when we got through. I mean, an easy day. I've never like, man, we got through this, all right. But I have when we've done those things. What I say is our failures, our downfalls, our mistakes. Those are that's what defines us, and not the mistake itself, but how we respond or react. And I think, there's no one who hasn't failed. There's no one who hasn't fallen down. There's no one who hasn't had to get back up when they were down low. There's nobody. And if you say you have, you're lying to yourself. And I think that those things are what builds our strength. It's not the tough times that test us that make us. It's the tough times we've been through that make us. I mean, we've been through so many tough times, and I don't ask God for tough times, but I do thank God for tough times. Something Dave Westcott taught me a long time ago is you have to be grateful for everything. Give you a perfect example. I split my own firewood here. I have all these trees around. I take down a few trees a year, let them season, take down, let them sit there for a year or two. Then I cut up trees. I split it all by hand. My wife's like, you got to get a log splitter. You're getting too old for this. I'm like, all right, we'll get one this year. I keep saying that every year. But anyway, I do that. I bring my own wood in. I bring my wood in for my fireplace. And I actually had a fire this morning. It was 48 degrees here. And I get splinters in my hand. And I used to cuss and go, man, got a splinter in my hand. And now I thank God for the splinter that I have in my hand, because that means I have wood for my fireplace. And I think everything has a price to pay. And when we start cursing it, that is a scarcity mindset. And we're grateful for it. I think that's an abundance mindset. Thank you for this because I have this. I wouldn't have this if I didn't have this. I mean, this winter I had the heater on my furnace go out. I had my sewage system back up. And there was another thing that had happened to us all within a span of a week and a half. And I just looked at my wife and I said, I'm just grateful we have a house that we live in that has all these things. And I'm not going to get upset because what I know is I've never solved a problem in a negative state of mind. I've never in my life solved a problem in a negative state of mind. So again, don't get me wrong. I don't have my moment of why. But then I'm like, you know what? That's not going to help me. That's not going to help me at all. What's going to help me is how. How can I take care of this? Who do I need to call? What do we need to do next? How am I going to deal with this? What am I going to do about this? But not why. Not why. That's the victim mentality. So again, I have to be grateful for these things. And I don't know if you know Dave Westcott, but he's a pretty successful businessman, and he's been to one of our retreats that we do, and he actually gave me the name of Medicine Heart. He said I was a natural born healer. Never really thought of myself that way, but it helped me. He said, helping people to heal when they come to the retreats. The retreats they're about personal growth, because I don't believe businesses actually grow. I believe we grow the people around us, and that's how the business grows. And that's, one of those things that sometimes we have things blocking us, things keeping us from being successful. And that's some of the stuff we get to in our retreats as well. But I believe that, we as individuals have to go through the toughest times in order to be able to celebrate the good times. And it's kind of like another thing we teach at the retreats. If we can't do the lowest of things together, we'll never do the greatest of things for each other. And that's just how that is. If we can't deal with some of the toughest times together, we don't even earn the right to celebrate the good times if we haven't done the tough times. And I think that's something we need everybody to buy into. It's not just about the celebration, it's about earning the celebration. And I think so many people miss that.
Yeah. No, that's great stuff, Thane. And I think getting through those tough times, having peer groups and those retreats to attend and be a part of can really help to give that new perspective, because sometimes people get into a rut and they end up doing the same thing for 5 years, but then they're expecting a different result. So I think sometimes it takes that extra perspective or that person to kind of come in and say, listen, based on what I'm seeing, maybe we should try doing this, or maybe we should try something different. So no, I totally agree, Thane.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, the beauties of me getting to come into businesses. My son, actually, I don't know if you know what this is. He wants to do a promotional stack for me. It's a new digital resume. He calls it a stack. That's what he works for. Ride Snowboards. He films for them. He does a lot of digital filming and video stuff. So he wants to do that for me. He said, "Look, Dad, you have an edge on a lot of these guys," because he's been to events with me and so forth. A lot of them are more, they don't have the background you have, the the work, that you've done. There's very few things that people can talk about that you can't say, yeah, well, I have done that before. I have put my hands in that dirt. I have dug a tree like that. I have, field dug hand by hand very large trees. So I've done a lot of different things in the industry, and so he wants to really have me showcase that. And walking into operations, it's really hard for people to BS me on any level. But you had mentioned something earlier about, well, many times it's the leader's fault because they haven't trained them. Every time it's the leader's fault. And that's what's so hard for people to bring me into their businesses is because at the end of the day, whoever the owner is, whoever the head person is, they've got to look in the mirror because I'm going to tell them these people didn't hire themselves. And hopefully they didn't train themselves because if they did, that's on you as well. And if you aren't involved in the hiring process, that's on you as well. And if you have a bad hiring process and you haven't changed it, that's on you as well. And it hurts for a lot of leaders, for me to be honest, and some people can't deal with it. I mean, I've had people, so I don't really think this is a good fit for us. I'm like, good, because I'm just going to be honest. If you don't start with yourself, if you don't start looking yourself in the mirror and saying, am I doing everything I should? Am I training people the way I should? Am I giving them the tools they need? Am I giving, any of those things, the resources they need? Am I not hiring the right people? That's, to me, every bit of it starts at the top. And if the owner is willing to look at themselves and say, what am I doing wrong first? Then there's a lot of room for improvement. If they're not ever willing to do that, there's just going to be increments of improvement. It's never really going to get where that needs to be. And I know that for myself. I know when I was the bad person leading. I know when I was the person who wasn't doing the right things leading. And when I changed that, things became successful. But I had to start with myself. I can't get everybody else to do what I'm asking them to do and I'm not doing it. Again, it goes back to that model behavior. If I'm speeding down the road in a company truck and I tell them all to slow down, they're going to laugh.
Yeah,
Just how it is.
absolutely. No, that's um awesome stuff. And now Thane, so um with this being the Green Industry Profits podcast, very curious to kind of hear your thoughts on things that you're seeing within the industry or, how companies can be more profitable and maybe find ways to kind of, maybe help with cash flow or, just increase profits over time.
Yeah, one of the, I mean, there's a few things. I mean, cash flow, as far as that goes, it is a tough situation. And one of the things I suggest that, I would say probably about 30 to 40% of the companies do, but many don't, and they're hesitant to do it, is taking deposits, especially on large installs. Maintenance, that's a little bit harder to do, obviously. But on installations, you taking a 30% deposit, at least that's covering your materials and some of your labor to get started, because otherwise we're bankrolling these businesses, these homeowners, and so forth. And the other part of having the deposit, and this was especially in the tree industry, when you have a deposit, you don't show up to the job and they've let somebody else do it, and now you got to go through dispatch to find your next job that is not scheduled yet, and there's a delay in time and so forth. So I've never understood not taking deposits. Now some people are like, well, people want to be on the schedule. Well, it's like, just, I mean, tell them that when they'll be on the schedule. I mean, it's a pretty simple thing. It's like, even if it's 2 months out, at least you're telling them, giving them an answer. But my thing is, we'll get you on the schedule as soon as you give us a deposit. That's when we will get you on the schedule. If you don't do that, then I can't put you on the schedule, because I have worked with, that was one of my first customers when I started consulting. And we had many times they wouldn't take deposits. We showed up and the tree work was done. And now you've got to find something else for those guys to do. And people don't really like you showing up at their house with, two big trucks without letting them know you're coming, because they may be having a get together, whatever. So it's not the easiest thing in the world. I just think that's one great thing people should do. I believe, going back to the autonomy we talked about, I think that's one of the greatest ways you can increase your profit, is by getting people to want to do their job, not to have to do their job, and giving them the autonomy where they have that buy-in, where they have, like, I own this. When I
Yeah.
own something, I'm gonna give a lot more to it. And even giving them their own P&L to look at. To me, that's very important. I believe that, people need that information. How can I expect people to get from Syracuse, New York, to Tuttle, Alabama, without a roadmap. How can I expect them to do that? But I expect them to give me a profit without giving them a roadmap. And that's all a budget is. It's not a Bible, it's a roadmap. And by having that information, having the P&L of, all right, so you've got this job that's a 3-week job. This is the labor on it. This is the materials on it. This is these are all the things that are involved in this. They can know how they're doing. So I think that's another way to ensure that you're having profit is by giving people the information they need so they can deliver a profit. I also think it's building relationships with vendors that we can do buy, get better on our purchasing, better pricing. I mean, a company like ValleyCrest, they had national accounts and they had some of the best prices on anything you could get, better than the dealers we were getting from could get. You're not going to get that, but you can at least build a relationship with a dealer that knows you're going to continue to buy from them and build that relationship. I mean, guy I work with in Sacramento was telling me that um, just recently, with all the growth they've been doing and the improvements they've been doing, he's had 3 different vendors want to build partnerships with him and give him the same discount, even though he's not as big as the same discount that they give to their biggest customers, just because they want to be aligned with them because of the quality and what he represents in the industry. I mean, what a win. So again, reach out, try to build these partnerships. Make yourself a company that people want to do business with because of who you are. It's kind of like sports, sports stars. They give them these shoe deals, and they get a percentage of the shoes that get sold because people want to be like that. It's the same thing, just not on as high a scale. Where we want people want to be with the superstars of the industry and have their equipment on those trucks. Just try to find those places, but again, you've got to be representing very well as well.
Yeah, awesome stuff. No, and yeah, it's great to be able to have some of those different options to help with the profitability. And Thane, as for the peer groups and your consulting, you mind just giving the community just the overview of what all that stuff looks like?
Yeah. So one of my proudest accomplishments is getting our retreats going at Ocean Isle Beach. We do them at Ocean Isle Beach, North Carolina. We've done one here in Vermont as well. We plan to do more in Vermont. But these are self-growth, personal transformation retreats. It's all inclusive, food, lodging. We're in a very organic. It's a family beach house that we've had since 1958. It's right on the beach, and we do challenges. We do different exercises. We do different presentations, and it's a pretty incredible thing. Some of the subjects that we're going to be doing this year are the other side of fear. So many people, get caught up in being afraid of things and moving forward in life. Again, one of my big things is abundance. So many people believe abundance is being able to have whatever you want and buy whatever you want. When I think that's the biggest scarcity mindset we have out there. It's never enough. It's never enough. I can buy and buy and I'm never fulfilled. And when I truly believe real abundance is being grateful for what you have and being willing to work for more. But we have everything we need before us. It doesn't mean we can't achieve more. But when all we are trying to do is buy more, buy more, buy more, and it's trying to fulfill us, believe me, I know, I was that guy forever. Like, oh, I can get three more records, I can get 3 more toys in my collection, I can get 5 more of these, and it's like it's never going to fulfill you. When you start going, I am grateful for what I have, and I don't have to have every record. I don't have to have every toy. I don't have to have everything. I am grateful for what I have. That's true abundance. Not being able to just keep accumulating more. That's scarcity. So that's some of the stuff that we talk about. Talking about one of our big subjects we like to talk about. So many people focus on their performance and the performance of their people. And what I focus on is what is actually your potential. What is the potential that you have? Because performance is today, potential is future. And I live in the moment, but I think about 5, 10, 15 years from now, even at my age, I'm thinking, what is going to be going on? What am I going to be doing? People ask me when I'm going to retire, and I say when I die. That I love what I do. Why would I ever stop? If retirement is getting to do what you love to do every day, I pretty much have that. I pretty much have that. And I know when people retire and don't do anything, that's when their life stops. So I'm good with what I'm doing for as long as I can get up out of bed and help people and not seem senile. I'm good to go.
Very cool, Thane. And what's the best way if people can reach out to you if they have any questions or if they're interested in any of those peer groups or services?
Yeah, so you can go to LinkedIn and find me on there, Thane Isaacs, ThaneIsaacs. I'm out there, and you can go to my email at innovations.tomorrow@gmail.com, and that's where you can find me via an email. And I do coach people. I am just about a capacity. I don't like to do more than 10 people a year because I like to be able to give people my attention and I like to have my freedom. So I do have room for 2 people if anybody's ever interested in talking how I can help them, if I can help them. Again, I'm not a fit for everybody, and not everybody connects with me. But I can give you testimonials if anybody wants, people who I do work with and have worked with in the past, who I've had very, very great success with. And again, there are a few here and there that, hey, this isn't a good fit, so let's part ways. And that's that I would be lying if I said I was a fit for everybody. But if anybody would like to reach out to me, and the other thing, if you want to call 802-770-4061. I might not be able to answer right away, but I will get back to you if you leave a message. I've actually had 2 people that I worked with in my life who called me from my phone number instead of going other ways. They wanted to talk to me, and to me, that's the best way. This interview doesn't tell you who I am. My LinkedIn doesn't tell you who I am. I don't have a website anymore. I had 30 people a month going to my website. I have thousands of people going every week to my LinkedIn profile. So I would just like, why do I even have this website? It's not effective. So don't try to find me on a website. If it's out there, it's defunct. It's not me anymore. Um, so that's about it. But if anybody is interested, I do have a couple of spots. But again, I'm not out there searching for that. What I am searching for is people to come to our retreats to find out about those. That to me is one of the most effective things we do. I can help you with coaching, no problem. But my true passion is doing these retreats and seeing people's lives transformed over 4 days and 3 nights of just great networking, great food, great events, an organic setting, and real life testimonials and presentations of, hey, this will change your life. I can promise you. I've never had anybody who attended who was like, oh, this wasn't what I wanted to do. People do say this wasn't what I thought it was going to be, but I've never had anybody say they wish they hadn't come. Everybody loves it. We've had people who've been 3 and 4 times to these events, so it's not just something that is a passing fancy. It's something that changes people's lives and businesses.
Awesome stuff, Thane. And we really appreciate you hopping on here and sharing your story. And uh, like I said, thanks for everything you do for the industry as well. And hope you have a great rest of your day. All right.
Thank you, Joseph. Appreciate it.